Hello, everybody. I started just a minute early so the feed can get up and running. Make sure I get it pulled up on my phone since I'm the only one in here nowadays. It looks like we didn't get the title changed. It's not driver audits, so the live says driver audits right now, I think. But it is not. Today, is it 5? It's 5. All right, here we go. Today we are going over hazard recognition and identification. Before we do that, we do have a little video here from Pat, so we will play that real quick for you before it starts.
Hey everybody, hope everybody's doing okay. It's Sunday. I'm sitting outside after I just took a walk with my hound dog. That's Sparks. I hope everybody's doing okay. Our family and I are thinking a lot about everybody. What a weird time. The one thing I've learned is that the only thing I know is that I don't know. And there's a lot of things I don't know. There's a few things I do, and that is that it's important that we all stay together during this time. And it's important we give everybody a little more space than we usually have. This 6-foot rule is important. It's critical for the safety of our country and also critical for our business. I don't know what you think of all this, but the one thing I know for sure is that we need the demand for energy to come back to our country. And the only way to do that is to make it through this and to get people back on the roads and planes back in the air. So my suggestion to all of you is to follow the guidelines that people have set up for us. Try to find some silver lining in it. Spend more time with your family. And do everything you can to be safe while you're working. I wish I had more for you, but that's all I got for today. I love every one of you. I'm thinking about you every day, and I want you to know I'm doing everything I can to guide the company through this difficult time. And I'm sure that we're going to come out on the other end, and we're going to be stronger for it. So that's all I got for today. Bye-bye.
All right, Pat popping in. Now we will start with, moving on. Hazard identification. So hazards, this is any source of potential damage, harm, or adverse effects on something or someone under certain conditions. So the hazard only describes the initial conditions for accidents on the job site, not the actual, cause of them. So this includes any tools, equipment, machinery, materials, the environment, people and their actions, and malfunctions. It takes a hazard plus exposure to that hazard before an accident occurs. So exposure is when you're at risk from a hazard, you're in the area and you are or could be affected by it. There's 3 forms of exposure. We have physical exposure, which happens when you're in close proximity to the danger zone and you contact it physically. There's environmental exposure, which means regardless of your distance from the hazard, you're still exposed and it still affects you. And potential is when there's the possibility that you could be exposed. Sources of hazards include gravity, motion, mechanical, electrical, biological, pressure, temperature, chemical, radiation, and sound hazards. So we'll go over a few of these, not all of them, but a few of them that you guys actually do encounter during your work during the day. So gravity is the force of attraction by which something falls toward the center of the earth. So obviously we're pretty familiar with gravity. This can be something as simple as a tool falling from a catwalk above your head, falling down to the ground. Motion is the action or process of moving or changing place or position. So movement, also kind of self-explanatory. This is anytime anything is moving, whether that be you or someone else's vehicle, or even you lifting something up. That's also a motion hazard. Electrical hazards. Electrical energy is the presence and flow of an electrical charge. Important electrical hazards you guys encounter are static. That's why it's so important to ground yourself in your truck. And the tools you use, make sure you're using non-sparking tools out there. And another one that we have on here as well is lightning. When you're out doing your work, make sure you're watching for weather hazards as well. Biological, see energy transactions in living organisms. So like we talked about in biological or bloodborne pathogens a couple weeks ago, you have the possibility of encountering biological hazards during work, so take precautions, especially during this time, to protect yourself. This can come from bacteria, viruses, and even animals, so that's another reason not to touch animals while you're out on locations. Pressure hazards, it's the continuous physical force exerted on or against an object by something in contact with it. So two you guys encounter in your jobs are hoses and hydraulic equipment. Temperature is the degree of heat or cold of a body, substance, or medium. You can be exposed to these hazards from things like fire, explosions, or even the sun, like heat illnesses. Radiation is particles or electromagnetic waves or energy emitted by atoms of radioactive sources and naturally occurring radioactive materials like norm. Some more simple way to put this is one of the places you guys can encounter this is through welding arcs. So for the shop, this is especially important as well. Another one the shop has potential of encountering a lot is sound hazards. So this is physical waves traveling through air or water that causes vibration that impacts your eardrum. So that can be from power tools or hammering on equipment in the shop as well. Right now, I'm going to throw in the safety focus phrase, so you guys aren't just going to the end of the video and finding it where it's highlighted. It's actually covered up. Haha. So the safety focus phrase is assess and manage risks. Now we're going to talk about risks. So a risk is the chance or probability that you will be harmed or injured if exposed to a hazard. So factors that influence the degree of risk include how you're exposed to the hazard, how much you're exposed to a hazardous condition, and how severe the effects are under the conditions of exposure. There's risks involved in all work-related operations. So after identifying the risks through knowledge, experience, job requirements, all that good stuff, you have decisions that include assessing and managing the risk. So risk management is a proactive means to eliminate or lessen the threat of hazards. So instead of reacting after an incident happens, you're proactively working to avoid the hazard and incident. Managing risks is done whenever you modify the way you do something and minimize the chance of an incident. And risk management helps to reduce or eliminate hazards anytime there are changes in work activities, including routine changes like maintenance or shift changes. Identifying and analyzing hazards. So hazard identification. Identifying those hazards is a systematic observation of unsafe conditions, negative behaviors, and weaknesses within management structure that could lead to injuries and illnesses on the job site. Identifying hazards also helps determine the nature of the hazard, which groups it into one of those categories we talked about earlier. And processes for this include inspections, audits we do, incident and accident analyses, and pre-job reviews, which we'll talk about in a minute. So the safety inspections and audits, these examine conditions in the workplace, identify hazards, and evaluate the quality of program design and performance. It also ensures continuous improvements in training, resources, enforcement, supervision, and leadership. So we just did audits last week. All of those things that we talked to you guys about in the field, make sure you're doing correctly and right when you're out there. This is the purpose of those. Pre-job reviews are also known as your JSAs. They examine hazards associated with a specific job. You separate the job into those basic steps and then analyze each of those steps. and identify potential and actual hazards. After that, then of course we control for those hazards. Also helps develop safe job procedures and improves job planning. So the purpose of these things is to eliminate hazards and risks before the incidents actually occur, and to communicate current or possible hazards of a job or location. That pretty much does it for hazard recognition and identification. So we're going to move into our ops and stuff. We have a couple maintenance things to touch on. This left picture here are clutch brakes. They've been hit hard by driving the clutch deep. Some are still serviceable. Clutch only needs a little bit of movement though. Only all the way in if you're stopping or starting. There's a lot of...
So, hey.
Yes.
Only all the way in if the vehicle's not moving.
Well, yeah.
You
So...
said starting or stopping. If the vehicle's not...
No, if you're starting the vehicle.
Yeah.
Or turning it off. Not in motion. Do you have some other things to touch on? Gilby's in here. I
just
have
want to say
one.
don't push that all the way in if the truck is still rolling. It only takes about 10 seconds to completely smoke a clutch brake. And we seem to be replacing a lot of them. Like, carry on.
Gilby's sassy. Alright, second picture is... Sorry, there's a lot of writing on here.
It's a brake pedal, looks like.
Yeah, it's a brake
A bunch
pedal.
of dirt underneath it.
With a bunch of...
Probably causing it to not come all the way back.
Alright, yes. Bunch of crud in there. Lamb's note says push out the roll pin and remove the pedal. Clean it out like the second picture. It'll stop a lot of brake-related issues, and it can be done by you guys. And it only takes a couple minutes. So if your brakes aren't working properly, maybe that's something to check. Just general cab hygiene.
Well, a lot of times if your cruise control or your Jake brake's not working, there could be something blocking the clutch pedal from coming all the way back up, or like this brake pedal issue here.
Alright, and the last one here. This is hydraulic lines. We've had many complaints of hydraulic oil leaking from the connections. Notes here, look at the above pictures. The wing connection has a righty-tighty connection, and the male connection has a reverse connection.
Still righty-tight.
What?
Still righty-tight. It's going the opposite
Yeah,
direction.
I mean, yeah.
They both go clockwise to tight.
Okay. Would you like to give
Well,
the presentation?
The way it's set up on the trailers, you have one wing nut on the trailer side and one wing nut on the tractor side. Both of them move clockwise to tighten. A lot of times if your hydraulics aren't working right, that might have just loosened up a little bit. They call them hammer nuts because a lot of times you can just give them a little tap to make sure they're tight or to loosen them up when you got to move them. But if you're having hydraulic leaks or if your pump's not working, it could be because these are just slightly loose. There is a pressure release on the inside of there that it has to be fully pushed through for the fluid to transfer through.
Yeah, so main point, hand tightening is not enough. Give it a little tap with a hammer. Alright, ops notes here. For the month of April, all Chesapeake barrels will be taken to Douglas Rail and need to be offloaded at the Getty boxes, not the Smart Lacked. Only Sinclair loads will offload at those Smart Lackeds. Pre-trips, you must show 15 minutes on your units for your pre-trips. Intake phone, if you have a problem with your truck, you have to call the intake phone. If you end up being delayed somewhere for any reason, you have to call dispatch. You can't just drive back to the yard and park it under any circumstance. You cannot do that. Trucks marked unsafe. If you log into a truck and it was previously marked unsafe, you cannot just mark it safe and drive it. The issues have to be resolved first. And cleanup notes, please continue to clean up after yourselves at locations. If you make a mess, clean it up. Also make sure you're keeping your trucks as clean as possible, both inside and outside as well. That'll do for today. Gilby, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Well, just with this COVID-19, our biggest focus is keeping all of our employees and our affiliates safe. We're trying to keep the drivers out of the shop area and dispatch area. We're just trying to make sure if any of us in here have it, that we don't contract it to you. We're not trying to act like the office is any safer at all. We just want to keep the social distance as far as possible, and keeping you guys, if any one person in the shop had it, and all of our drivers walked through there, there's a potential they could all have it. So that's one reason why we're asking you not to come in. I mean, obviously, if there's some business we need to conduct, we can do it safely. You guys can come in for that. We are limited on supplies. That's why we have the cart down there with just a few items. Please just take what you need and bring it back. Once you're done, it might have been a little misleading or whatnot. I know you might need them throughout your shift or whatnot, but we're trying to get more supplies. But if you guys have been to Walmart or any other store for that matter recently, you'll see how hard it is for us to get them, especially when places like Sam's Club limit us to only buying 1 or 2 packs at a time. That makes it hard to supply for you guys. So if you're able to, I would highly recommend bringing your own supplies in if you can. But we will try to provide them where we can.
For that station, please do not steal the stuff down there. We have signs that say you have to return those back once you do use them. Like Gilby said, we understand you'll have to use some during your shift or something, but that cart down there, return them. Don't steal the stuff out of them. I see we have questions wondering where the safety focus word is. I already said it, so if you missed it, you'll probably want to go back and watch the video and what you missed. Okay? Alright, that'll do. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you sometime.